So for this video, I'm going to be showcasing a second Sorcerer list in a post-Isle of Madness world. And the reason I'm doing this is because a while ago, Justin Larson played Sorcerer for what he calls Meta Monday, and he was using the list and he was attributing it to me, and it was not the list that I have posted a deck spotlight on. So I've done the Manic Jack Sorcerer, and that's a list that I very much enjoy and I like playing, but this is a bit different. And so I got a lot of questions on it, and I thought I would just do another separate spotlight on this particular list. This is the other mid-range list that I run. And then I'll also briefly talk about some other changes you could make if you wanted to make this less mid-rangey and a bit more aggressive. So what makes this list different? Well, the big thing that makes this different, in my opinion, is the focus on Siege Catapult and Mighty Conjuring and Corrupted Shade in some senses. So when you're looking at this list, again, this is more mid-rangey, so I don't have any one-drops. There's no Iliacs, there are no Crown Quartermasters, but we do have Barrowstalker because it's just a great, solid, keyword-loaded creature, very good against other aggressive decks. Satanine because I love it, but Satanine also fills a really important role in that the +3/+0 means that any of your creatures with 2 attack, and it turns out this deck runs quite a few of them, even the Skinned Hound here. It will take them and make them big enough for Mighty Conjuring to trigger off of them. So Satanine provides burst in the form of the item, but also is a very reliable, consistent way to make sure you're triggering your Mighty Conjurings. Siege Catapult, obviously. Skinned Hound. Now, interestingly, one of the big questions I get is, like, why is Skinned Hound in this list and not in my Manic Jack list? Well, you can put it in the Manic Jack list. It would take the Barrowstalker's place in that list, and I prefer currently Barrowstalker for a couple of meta reasons. Specifically, again, there's a lot of aggressive decks that I've been seeing on the ladder, and the drain I think is relevant. However, Skinned Hound is in this list because sometimes you play Siege Catapult and you don't get immediate value, and especially against other aggressive lists, if you play Siege Catapult and they're developing threats that can attack, it can put you on the back foot. Skinned Hound, however, can allow you to give your catapult guard, and so even if it's not attacking very early on in the game against other aggressive decks, if you make a 5/7 guard, that's annoying for them. And typically, most aggressive decks aren't running hard removal. They're running ways to just go around guard, and if that way to go around it is silence, well, now you have a Siege Catapult that can attack regardless because they silenced it. So you create this double-edged sword scenario. Even just putting Skinned Hound's guard ability on something like Daggerfall Mage. Doomfang Ally is either a 3/3 ward or a 3/5 creature most often. If you make this a 3/7 guard, then you gave yourself, a pretty decent Hive Defender, things like that. So Skinned Hound, I like it in this list because it makes your Siege Catapult pretty relevant, and then even putting it on something like Bleak Coast or whatever later can be very, very good against other aggressive decks. Negation should just be mandatory in anything that has the Sorcerer colors at this point. Wardcrafter and Windkeep because, wards, they're good. All right, Daggerfall Mage. It's a staple. I'm going to talk about this in a minute, though, when I talk about potential changes that you can make if you wanted to make this deck more aggressive. Doomfang Ally, very, very good in Sorcerer. Hunting Spirit, great value. Mammoth, great value. These are all pretty much staples. Same thing with Bleak Coast. Now, because I'm running Mighty Conjurings, I'm also running Corrupted Shade, and that also means I'm running Shadowfen Priest. Now, Priest is my utility card for, again, kind of going around other guards, dealing with threats that you just can't handle. You don't have hard removal here, so sometimes silencing that Night Talon Lord that they played a bit early to be greedy can be a big deal, right? Things like that. Blowing up a Divine Fervor can be a big deal, so on and so forth. So I'm running the Priest, but it's also really nice because, again, you can use it to silence your own catapults, or if your ward has popped on Corrupted Shade and you don't happen to have a Wardcrafter in hand, then you can just silence your Corrupted Shade and then it doesn't kill itself, right? So a lot of utility here. And again, Shade is yet another way to trigger Mighty Conjuring. Shade has ward, so it's another way to fuel your High King Emmerich should you draw it. And then at the top end, 3 Mighty Conjurings, because these are essentially your big, beefy, like Bone Colossus replacements. I like it more than Bone Colossus because the guard makes it really relevant, again, against other aggressive decks. and it requires hard removal. So even decks like Telvanni, for example, will sometimes need to use 2 resources, because even if they want to Viper it, they still have to get rid of the ward first. It's just an annoying threat, and coming down on 7 is pretty important. So I'm a fan, and then Ancano finishes it off. So this is the list. If you wanted to make this more aggressive, or you wanted to stick in Manic Jack, so let's start there. If you just flat like are looking, I like this list, but I want Manic Jack, I actually think you would cut Daggerfall Mage. You could also argue for Doomfang Ally. Either one of these are fine. These would be the flex spots. I like this because it's a bigger body, and you could just cut Daggerfall Mage and slap in Manic Jack, because it also makes you more resilient against Sorcerer's Negation in doing so, and that would be fine. That would be reasonable. If you wanted to just make this list overall more aggressive, then you would start thinking about cutting things like the Mighty Conjurings, because you don't need as much top end. And you could include Manic Jack, you could include Crown Quartermaster. Iliac Sorcerer is also really good in this list, specifically with Satanin. So you could cut some of these top end pieces and then just shift this entire list and be very, very aggressive. But this is the one I've been running because I'm more of a mid-range kind of guy. This has been good to me, and it is different from my other Manic Jack list, so I wanted to share it. All right, we're at the point now where I'm done talking about the list. Let's jump into some games so I can, again, just show you how it pilots. You should know by now if you have seen any other Sorcerer deck spotlight from me, but on the off chance this is your first one, or you just want to see some cool gameplay, let's go do that now. All right, here we go. We are going first against an archer opponent, and we want to keep our 2-drops. Negation's always good to have in your back pocket. Proactive 2-drop is great. Catapult's good too. And the Skin Hound. Okay, so 4 2s, and that's understandable. We run a lot of them.
Trust me.
That's all right. So we can go ahead and do this. Now, the thing that we're going to be worried about in this particular matchup is actually going to be like Archer's Gambit and Shadow Shift, because we're going to give this guard.
Care to make a friendly wager?
Interesting. We're also probably going to silence this. Yeah, I think so. We're going to take some damage, though. Like, I don't want him to draw, but then we're going to turn around and take 8 damage. Whereas if I let him draw, there's a chance he could find a way to get around this. It's a bit of a tough decision. I could also just outright activate this without even worrying about the Skinned Hound if I just developed the Daggerfall. So I actually think that's what we're going to do here.
Fires of oblivion.
I know it's tempting to hit this with a negation here, but the reality is they started with Mournhold, and they're going to be an aggressive deck, right? So not killing a creature and then still taking 8 when I have nothing on the board as a mid-range deck just doesn't feel right. And we're going to eventually start hitting them in the face. We are not a control deck, so denying them cards isn't a huge deal. Like, it sucks because now they have resources, right? They have choices.
I want to be an assassin, like Nari.
But it is still something that
Didn't see this coming, eh?
we were trying to avoid.
On the wrong side. Sheol take
We're
you.
certainly going to take this.
Watch yourself now.
And then we're going to also do this. We're going to nuke this, and then we'll get a guard over here.
On the 3, I will spill your blood.
Deserves another. Oh.
And so again, Archer's Gambit's something that we would be concerned about because they could still push 8 damage, right? They would move this over, ping this, and push 8 damage and potentially even develop a 2-drop, but it's not appear that they have one.
Stronghold.
So we're still looking okay. A couple of different ways that we could tackle this particular problem. However, the most efficient means appears to be Going with a mammoth, a barrow stalker here, just so that we have a guard in front of this. And then we can go ahead and hit that. And then we can actually, if we want, take this trade, just because we're going to get a guard back from this, so we'll only need to play one creature to activate this. And so I think that's what we want to do.
Out upon it.
Because again, we're more mid-range than aggressive, and so while the damage is nice, we're just trying to ensure that we have a bigger board presence than our opponent. And so we can even do things like this. Put them on the cusp and develop a mammoth. I hate attacking with this right here because if they hit a prophecy, we have no responses, but still best secure board position, because that's what matters. And again, that's why I want to go back and I want to highlight there may have been a temptation from some players to use that negation over there, and I understand why, but it just did not do anything to help our actual board position. So sometimes you just have to let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Alright, a couple of different ways that we could tackle this particular problem as well. The one I'm most fond of, however, is Shadowfen Priest, to get rid of the lethal here, because then this still survives that trade, and the more value we get out of it, the better. So we're going to go ahead and do this.
You must be clever.
And then develop the Priest. And then we'll get some attacks in.
Die, Swit.
And we'll go ahead and develop this.
This day will be mine.
Real reason we want to get this on the board, regardless of anything else, is it makes our High King Emmerich now hit for 4. So if something else shows up here, we might be able to push an awful lot of damage as a result there as well. But this is kind of a clinic in what you want to do with a mid-range sorcerer list. You use your bigger, more efficient threats to just get control of the board. Specifically the field lane if you can, because that gives you initiative, right? And once you have that, you just kind of like attrition away their board as best as possible. So think about how much value that single siege catapult got this game, and you'll understand entirely why. They conceded, but we had just top decked lethal anyway, between the 4 damage from the High King and the extra 3 from Seydanin. So hey, that's a victory. Let's play another game and see if we can recreate those results. Alright, so we're diving into another game here. This time we are going second against a Battle Mage player. This is a fantastic opener. We have a 2-drop, a 3-drop, and a negation. Negation's always good to have in your back pocket. We do not know what kind of Battle Mage player. So we'll just start by trying to get a hold of the field lane. If it's a Prophecy Battle Mage player, we'll find out pretty quickly. They'll likely just dodge over here, playing some sort of aggressive threat. And if it is a mid Battle Mage player, or maybe even some silly like OTK, then we might see some other plays. And we saw nothing. So at this point in time, we just proceed like normal. We try to secure control of the field lane, play our resilient threats, and try to push damage. It'd be nice if we could find something else a little more resilient this next turn. Whether that be one of our big 4-drops, the 5/5s, or even something like a mammoth. Something with a big body. These are sticky, but they kind of just poke you, you know? 2 damage here, 2 damage there.
Out upon it. I will have your head.
We're going to take the easy negation into Windkeep here.
Mine. My friend would like a word with them.
Breton Conjurer. So this is going to be mid Battle Mage. Now our biggest issue is that we can actually, we could pop this ward and blow through the 5/5. But believe it or not killing this and doing that just means that this will get a mace or a ward crafter or something. So that actually feels really bad.
Face me, you
So we're just gonna ignore that.
Sheor take you. By the 8th, they will meet their makers.
We're just gonna ignore that and play more warded creatures. Now that's not to say that they can't just turn around and do the same thing, right? They can do this and then potentially play Battle Mace again or something, but a couple of different ways we can handle this now. The negation gives us flexibility, though I really do like loading up on tomes to push through more damage here.
Gall and pox. Out upon it.
Vile canker blossom.
So no active wards, but we did a good job of refilling our hand. And while they do have a big blood dragon, we still have a decent number of threats there, and we've whittled away at their health total. It looks like they want to deny us tome value as best they can.
Let's shed some light on the problem.
And alright, this will eat the wind keep. So they're doing a good job of just stabilizing over there. Well, because this can still attack around, I either need to negate that or trade. I actually think I just prefer the trade. And we'll go with something like this.
The stench of the living.
Though having control of the field lane is important, playing the 5/5 over there by itself means that this can attack it and firebolt it, something like that.
I have you now.
Alright, a lot of different options here. Though I do really like playing Mighty Conjuring, because traditionally Battle Mage doesn't have many ways to deal with that. Some variants run like Fellow the Mighty, but getting something like that down this early is really important. And then when we have a fair amount of reach and tech following it up the next turn, I think that's legit. And I think that we want it over here.
Wrong place for a midnight stroll.
So we're worried about something like Shackle. We're also one off of lethal at the moment. So there's the Shackle.
You're mine.
There's the Battle Mace on the
keep a spare
Conjure.
blade in my boot.
Alright, so being one off of lethal at the moment means, in my opinion, that we are going to do something a bit different. We're going to put this here
Must be cleansed.
and go like this. This at least puts us within range of a lightning bolt getting the victory, but it also means that our Shadow Fen that's currently hiding threatens lethal the following turn with the negation. And at 29 health, we're pretty safe with regards to like not letting them burst us down. Now, if they do have an answer for this, as long as this survives, we at least have outs. We have top deck outs along with things like that. So we do still have the tome here. So let's see if we can find anything. Well, I think that this is still pretty important.
We of the leech, adapt and survive.
Well, that's unfortunate. We were really hoping for this to get ward, and it did not, so that's sadly going to get traded into with Ancano. But I wanted to have a threat that was potentially away from the Conjurer, because this Conjurer is likely going to make yet another guard. So, shocker, I know.
All too long.
But there it is. So now we're in a position where we have 3 Lightning Bolts and Ancano in our deck, all of which represent lethal. And if we don't get it, we're probably dead the next turn, so... We're going to at least try to slow him down a bit here. Try to soak at least 5 damage. I mean, they still have lethal on the board and an awful lot of resources in hand. But we're going to do our best here.
Watch yourself now.
Reward that Conjurer yet again.
Stay back.
That's a good answer. Now let's see if they decide to take the plunge. No, I think they're gonna wait. They're gonna give us some more opportunities here. Alright, we're gonna go this route and hope for a Lightning Bolt victory. Sometimes that's just all you can do. You get your opponent to 1, and you gotta put your faith in a Lightning Bolt. Wow, they are just passing. That is so incredibly interesting to me. I wonder what they're waiting for. Like, the only reason that you would pass in this scenario is if you have some way to gain health. Right? So they must have something in their deck that will allow them to gain health. Otherwise, you're just giving me more turns to potentially find reach. Potentially find a Lightning Bolt. So, this seems very bizarre to me unless, as I said, they have some way... some way that I'm not familiar with to gain health. Because you've got more than enough damage here to kill me. You've got a fistful of cards. Again, that feels very weird to me. I think this is certainly one of those scenarios where my opponent should have attacked, because my last 3 draws were certainly not Lightning Bolts. They weren't prophecies.
Careful there.
This should have been a very close loss, mind you, but it should have definitely been a loss for me. Which will happen if you don't draw any of your reach.
I have you.
But every turn that goes by gets
Perhaps
me...
we can help one another.
Oh, maybe they were waiting on this? Yeah, and there's the victory. So, we're going to take the win. This is just showing you how to play to your outs, and also, sometimes your opponents make potential play mistakes. So, anyway... thanks for watching, and until next time, may you walk on warm sands.